All right, welcome back. Part two of my story, my transformational story. And this story, my story's crazy. It's so dramatic. Like, I don't want it, but it's mine. I have to own it. And the more I've leaned into it, the more I've leaned into the things that have happened in the past to me. I've also understand they've happened for me. And I also have watched it help and heal other women and where they can find themselves in my story. So I'm sharing you this story so you can find yourself and maybe find a new place of liberation, a new place of freedom, because what God is calling you to is to freedom and liberty. And if there's any areas of your life where you're not feeling that, then that is beneath your birthright as a believer. So I just want to really encourage you to lean in and listen for maybe your story, hopefully your story is not as dramatic as mine, but you can maybe hear a part of where I was broken and how I was able to, just with a lot of grace, a lot of love, a lot of determination, proper tools, I was able to move forward into this place of high performer coach now, of a place where it is my mission to walk worthy of my calling and to powerfully use my voice to help other women walk worthy and to have a transformation and to understand this is a process. Oh my goodness, this is not a one and done and then there you go, bada bing, bada boom. Nope. So we're going to pick up today from last week and move forward into that as I am celebrating. So I've got my whole thing here as 50 shades of pink. You know, pink's my favorite color. So look at here, look at this. If you're watching on the YouTube, I've got this pink sparkly cup that's so super fantastic. But anyway, thank you again for being here. I appreciate you. I'm here to help you walk worthy and enjoy this podcast. So I want to fast forward a few years from there. I'll never forget this one day. I've shared the story before, but it was a pivotal time in my life when I was sitting at a ladies' Bible study, still hiding in plain sight. My little dog Annabelle used to hide. She would take these little bones and she would get in on the chair and she would take her little feet and move her little feet and she was hiding this bone, and we would just laugh. It was in plain sight. She never hid this bone. Her little bones would just always be, but she would nudge it with her nose. What is she doing? But that's what I was doing. I was hiding in plain sight. Well, I was sitting in this Bible study one day, and the way typical Bible studies do, where there's open conversation and dialogue, and people are sharing their thoughts and feelings. And this one girl was going through a lot. Her husband was, he was away in the service, and she was just going through so much. And there were some things that she had shared in this study, and or at the end, she was just sharing some things personally. And I knew I was supposed to open my mouth and share with her part of my own personal story. And I knew that would help her. And so I sat there in that moment and I went to open my mouth, and I've never had a nudge from God so strongly as this that said, share your story. And I went to open my mouth. I opened my mouth to share my story, and no volume came out. I wanted to share my story, but I couldn't. And I didn't. That moment passed, and I sat there in that moment, immediately going to a really mean place of guilt and shame, like I always did. You loser, why didn't you do that? You were supposed to help her and you couldn't do that. Why didn't you do that? So I was immediately going to this place of guilt and shame. And again, I had this overwhelming sense like I've never had before. The Lord speak to my heart, and he told me two things. He said, you'll know you're healed when you can share your story without shame. Okay, there were two things. I'll know I'm healed when I can share my story without shame. So here's the thing. The first part of that is I could be healed. You see, I didn't know actually that was possible. I was so used to being broken that's all I knew. And I just cried. I could be healed? You mean I don't have to carry the weight of the world on my shoulders? I don't have to carry this scarlet letter or whatever you want to call it. I don't have to live like this. Are you kidding me? That was an option. I didn't know it was an option. I want to share this because if you're listening to this and you've been carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders from whatever you've done in the past, or maybe what somebody's done to you, and that is what you are walking around with, God wants you to know you don't have to. He says, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. There is therefore now no condemnation to all who are in Christ Jesus. As a child of God, I didn't have to carry that out. But here's the thing. Satan is subtle. What I just thought was normal and what I was supposed to do. This is the girl going to church in her Bible, reading, doing the Bible studies. I just bought the bill of goods. This was my life. Here I am, 40 years old. Well, crap. My life didn't turn out like I wanted to. So shoot, God, I'm sorry. I'll just sit here in the background and, I don't want to cause you any more shame. So that moment was pivotal for me when I realized I could be healed. I could be whole. And the second part of that is when I can share my story with no shame. Now, let me tell you, that was not the easy part. Share my story with no shame. So here's what that meant. I had to share my story. Okay. That's what that meant. I needed to share my story. Y'all, I've been hiding from this story for so long. I was mortified at that thought. In fact, I didn't understand personal development at this time. But I knew what that meant is I needed to get uncomfortable and share my story. Because if I could be healed, if there's healing on the other side of me sharing my story, then heck, that's what I want. Because where I was in so much bondage and I was in so much pain. I didn't want that anymore. So sharing my story was going to be hard, but it couldn't be harder than what I was experiencing. Because here's what I want to tell you. On the other side that God has for you is liberty and freedom. That is the side of being whole. But on the side of being broken, that's bondage. There's shame. And that's where the enemy wants us. And that's what I've learned as being now a high performance coach who's moved on and moved forward and passionate about helping other women, is that the enemy locks and loads with the lies that he feeds us. Not good enough, too old, too fat, too whatever, too many mistakes, too many failures, washed up, incapable. And it's all a lie. On the other side of this is freedom. So that's what I want to share with you for the rest of this time, is how I was able to overcome that. So here's the thing. I started opening my mouth and sharing my story, and it didn't kill me. I thought it would. I did not want to do it. I did not. But I was really clear what I heard that day. And so I really started intentionally looking for the right places to share that story. So here's the thing. This became a journey and a process. I started to understand my identity in Christ. It was not an overnight thing, but it was starting to become more real to me. I'll not forget, on my 45th birthday, I wrote a blog for my blog post about my identity in Christ. And I shared my story publicly for the first time. And it was so liberating. It was so freeing. And the emails that I got back from that one blog and from that one email, I don't know that I've ever had so much of a response. It was real clear to me then, when I turned 45, that my story was going to help other women. And if that's the case, then I'm going to share my story. It's not even about me being healed anymore. It's not even about that. If this will be the catalyst to someone, if it's maybe somebody else's survival guide and it can shorten their time, then I'm going to share my story. That's what I need to do. That's what I'm going to do. So I really determined that. So I started to find myself. I started to find a different level of, like I said, I was always a hustler, but I started to find a different level of grit and determination for getting this message out in a way that makes sense. At that time, as a trainer and health coach and all of that, that's how I was going to help women was through that. And what I've learned is that first part of my healing was that identity piece. And I want you to write that down, is that identity, understanding who you are and whose you are. But it was this healing process was such a journey for me that I had to figure out proper alignment within my soul, within how I'm created. There was still broken beliefs that needed to be healed. And there was a lot of just bad habits that I had along the way. Now, health and fitness and nutrition, I have great habits. I've built really, really, really good habits, really most of my life. And so I really have been able to help women with that. But there were a lot of things that would still hold me back. People pleasing was one of them. Perfectionism, feeling like I just needed to do things perfect or I really couldn't do it. Fear of others, fear of what people thought of me, others' opinions of me. These things really stayed in my mindsets. And as I started to get healthier and healed, I started to recognize these. Really, I think there's societal expectations for women that are placed, especially, I'm not going to say especially, but I know for sure. At first I would say in the South, because I deal with a lot of women live in the South. I'm from the South, but the more my community has grown, this is across the board. You don't have to be a woman living in the South to have these societal expectations of being polite and being correct and making sure that we have a certain look in a certain way, when really we've got an audience of one, and it's God, and we're to please him and not man. So learning these things, my all or nothing personality started to kick in as I started to expand my belief in myself and what I was capable of. And I was like, this all or nothing. I'm like, whoo! I shifted into performance and striving and bought into the whole boss babe culture. And that's because, listen, I was still looking for my worth. I was still searching for that sense of worthiness. I still felt now I'm out there and I'm not hiding as much anymore, but I'm out of alignment because I'm still looking for that next level of success. And when I find that next level of success, then I'm going to feel better internally. And what I learned through this process is that will never happen, because I was really operating my life from a place of unworthiness. And so if you're stuck in that grind and that hustle and that, and it doesn't even have to be like in a professional setting, it could be with your children, or it could be even, volunteer positions. It doesn't matter what it is. It's like, if you're looking for that next thing to fill what's missing in your life, I'm going to just tell you, you're operating from a place of unworthiness, and you'll never find it, because as a child of God, we are created to find that, to know that this is who we already are. I'm already worthy because actually God deemed me as worthy because I'm his own. I am royal. I am washed in his blood. I am adopted by him. So as I started to get in my identity straight, started to get into alignment, I started to understand massive mindset shifts. I started to understand the power that was capable, that was of what I could do. It was incredible. I really started to understand thoughts are things, and I learned how to change my thoughts. I took all sorts of courses and certifications on neuroscience and how to actually change the brain and change the thoughts. It was powerful. I went through this exponential growth, and I couldn't help but to like take women underneath my wings and help them do the same thing, and had some great success. And also through this, as I started to, as I shared earlier, it ended up leaving me feeling exhausted and a workaholic. And until I finally came to that place of I was ready to shift. I had some disruptions in my life, and God often uses disruptions in our life to realign us. And so when I got in alignment with my higher purpose, that's when everything changed. And on my 48th birthday, so it's interesting. I'm a big journaler. I'm a type 3 on the Enneagram, double type A personality type. And so we like milestones. We like first of the year, our birthday. We like the first of a quarter. So you're hearing some birthdays consistently on here, and it is kind of interesting, right? So on my 48th birthday, something really interesting happened. On my 48th birthday, I was sitting in Colorado. I had already decided I was looking forward to my 50th during my 47th year, because I was out of alignment and I wanted to get my life back in alignment. I made a list of 50 things I wanted to do before I turned 50. No lie. And it was really cool. What I was learning was that I really wanted to live my life more intentionally, and instead of so much hustle. Anyway, on my 48th birthday, I was sitting in Colorado in this it was kind of a crappy cabin, but this beautiful balcony on the outside, and had a cup of coffee. I had a brand new journal, and I was looking at the mountains. It was such a beautiful morning. It was nice and cool and crisp, which is something we don't have in Mississippi. So I was just taking in the moment, and I needed some shifts in my life. I had the mindset shifts already, but I really needed a spiritual shift. I really needed a soul shift. I needed to get back to things. And I wrote in my journal that morning that what did I want? What do I want? What do I want? It's like, Amy, what do you want? The number one thing that I wanted intimacy with Jesus. I write this down. Okay. Number 2, in this, I didn't even know what this meant. I was like, I really felt like it was like led by the Spirit. Was the second thing that I wrote down was that I would remove all idols in my life. I didn't even know what that meant. Okay. I'm like, what does that mean? I literally said, what does that mean? Every morning I got up and I rewrote that on the next day on my journal. I want intimacy with Jesus, and I want to remove all idols. As I started to really dive into, that's what I wanted in my life. That was what was missing. Then what do I need to do to put priority on that? That happened simultaneously with 3 massive disruptions not too long after that. And it sent me in a divine assignment. It helped to recenter me and reshift me. And it was the first time that I started to feel alive, fully alive in my higher God-given purpose. It was in this disruption, I was able to finally go, God, I surrender to you. I am sick and tired of doing this my way. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. And I know that you've got more for me, and I don't even know what it is right now. And I had this an intentional incubation period. I just kind of quit everything. I'm like, ugh, I just needed to get in the right place in my life. And I needed to take care of those other disruptions that were happening. Anyway, through that, I really got in alignment with my destiny, with what God wanted me to do with my life, how he wanted to use the abuse and the pain from the past, even how I perceived myself, that I could use this and use my voice as a vessel for him. He helped to bring about all of the unique ways that he's made me. And I started to understand how I am a masterpiece from heaven. I am a custom creation from God. I have his DNA running through my body, and that he wants to use everything, all of the good and the bad, for his purpose and for his glory, that I am a kingdom bearer, that I am a daughter of the King. And it was in this realignment a true divine alignment, that I was able to understand that he's calling me to walk worthy. Ephesians 4:1-2, that Paul says, I urge you. He says brothers, but I like to say sisters. I urge you, sisters, walk worthy of the calling for which you are called. I was like, okay, then if he's urging me to walk worthy of this calling for which I'm called, what does that mean? I need to understand my calling and my purpose and how that I'm wired and how I'm made. So I really took that seriously. And that's when the whole walk worthy was given to me. That whole, I call it a divine download. Literally, I was running a half marathon and it came. I was like, whoa, this is a lot. And my aunt used to say, chew it up whole, swallow it up on the way down. And that's exactly what happened. It took me a while for me to understand what walk worthy is. So my mission now is to walk worthy of my calling and to powerfully use my voice to help other women walk worthy. And this is what I do to help women understand who they are and whose they are, because I understand that we can't make those changes until we have that right understanding of who God is. And we can't really step into the fullness of all that he's calling us to unless we know who we are, and to activate that. So you can change your life with your thoughts. You can, and so I shared with how I started to have those mindset shifts and changes. And you can change your life with your actions, and you can change your life with your habits. But when we align our thoughts and we Romans 12:2, we're transformed by the renewal of our mind and not conformed to this world. And we have an understanding of our purpose, our kingdom purpose, and we take this very seriously. It's a beautiful and powerful thing. So this, for me, has been a transformational process. This last decade, there's been so much growing and moving forward. There was like massive steps forward, and then there were steps forward and back. And that's what I want to encourage you is that you are capable of change. I was capable of change. If you could only understand, less than a decade ago, much less than that, I would say like 8 years ago, I was the woman sitting in a chair, scared to death to open my mouth. I was the woman that was still operating from fear. And I had gotten really comfortable with hiding and shrinking. And that is not how we are called to live. And in all of these processes, all of these steps forward and the steps back, and the transformational process of understanding this and learning and unlearning so many things, getting way out of my comfort zone, so far out of my comfort zone. Now that I can share the story with you on a podcast or a YouTube or on a stage in front of thousands of people, that is a transformation. And so I just want to encourage you on that. I wanted to share my story with you, that your identity, your alignment, stepping into your higher purpose and understanding who you are and then walking worthy of that is what God's calling us to do. He's calling us to do. And if he can do it for me, he can do it for you. So thank you for listening, and thank you for being here today. And I pray that this blesses you. I would love to hear how it did. I would love to hear what shifts you can make in your own life from this. What mindset shifts do you know that you need to make, where maybe you're hiding and shrinking or living in shame or guilt, or you are stuck in people pleasing and perfectionism and the things that are holding you back. I just want to encourage you to break free, that God's calling you to higher and calling you to more, and you have to step out of your comfort zone and to move forward. And for me, what I've started doing now, just like if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to do that. I do have a place where I actually take women and I help them. And it's in a mentorship program where I give you the tools, the high performance coaching tools, the tools that you need to move forward, all from a biblical worldview, all from a place of love and grace, and to move you forward and out of inaction to action, whether it's for your physical health or spiritual or mental health, emotional well-being. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can check the show notes, but it's called Walk Worthy Mentorship, and it is life-changing. I'm not even kidding you. It's now my purpose, and that's my favorite place to hang out. So anyway, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Share this with somebody, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.